my team, and I are safe now. This statement from Dilraba might sound plain, but it was enough to bring instant relief to tens of millions of people who had been worried sick about her. Some might argue the entertainment world is flooded with breaking news every single day, so a star missing one event isn't exactly a deal breaker. But for Reba, it's a different story. She's not the type to just flake out. If she's missing, it's usually a sign that things have spiraled completely out of control. Hey guys, Sean here and welcome back. Today, I'm not going to talk about how much of a shame it was for Reba to miss that major fashion show in Paris. I'm also not here to parrot the force majeure or unforeseen circumstances excuses we've heard over and over in the press releases. Instead, I want to take you all back to the early hours of March 1st, 2026. Stick around because you never know how deep this hole goes. Dubai is a city built on luxury, a place where the neon lights never fade. But that night, the peace was shattered in an instant as Operation Epic Fury from the coalition forces tore through the sky. It happened as missile debris rained down, slamming into the steel frame of Terminal 3. The airport lights flickered and dimmed, drowned out by the bone-shaking roar of explosions. That girl from Xinjiang, standing at the very peak of her fame, where exactly was she when this nightmare unfolded? During those agonizing hours, when she was cut off from the world with no signal and no way out, where was the team that was supposed to protect her? Most people think this was just a tragic coincidence. But to me, this looks more like a meticulously crafted scenario, a drama fueled by dependency and betrayal. And it all traces back to exactly 4 days before the Dubai terror struck. The 26th of February, 2026, started out as a quiet day. It was the day a massive 13-year contract between Reba and her longtime agency, Jaywalk Studio, officially came to an end. 13 years. That's the most precious chapter of anyone's life, the journey from a wide-eyed teenager to reaching the absolute pinnacle of success. To truly grasp the weight of these 13 years, we have to wind the clock way back to the summer of 1992. In a modest home in Urumqi, Xinjiang, a baby girl named Dilraba Dilmurat was born. In the Uyghur language, her name means a beauty that is loved. Even the timing of her birth tells a story. Xinjiang, in the early 90s, was a crossroads where deep family traditions met a rapidly changing outside world. Her father was an actor in the Xinjiang music and dance troupe. Looking back, many say Reba's success was simply because she was born with the face of a star. But few realize her childhood was more like a grueling marathon. She had to master dance, music, and acting all at once. During her years at the arts high school in Xinjiang, she spent nearly every waking hour in the rehearsal room. Eventually, she beat the odds and earned a spot at the prestigious Shanghai Theater Academy. Imagine that a young girl coming from the far western borders, thousands of miles away. When she first set foot in the sprawling metropolis of Shanghai, her Mandarin still carried a heavy regional accent. She was quiet, almost introverted, a far cry from the typical showbiz personality. But destiny was already clearing a path for her. In 2013, a humble drama called Anarhan served as her official debut. At the time, she had no idea it was just the beginning. 2 years later, a series called Diamond Lover aired, and her role as the quirky yet sincere Gao Wen took the internet by storm. Overnight, Reba went from a newcomer to a total star power magnet. From there, the hits kept coming. Eternal Love, Pretty Li Hui Zhen, The Long Ballad, title after title, with view counts easily smashing the billions. The industry quickly slapped a label on her, top tier. But behind that glittering label was a name she couldn't escape. Jaywalk Studio. This agency was once the gold standard for efficiency in the Chinese entertainment world. They offered the full package: long-term contracts, massive resource sharing, and an instant template for churning out new stars. Instead of just a management firm, this place operated more like a high-precision industrial machine. From dramas and variety shows to commercial deals and high fashion, every single gear had to lock into place perfectly. In a machine like this, a star's charm is amplified 100 times over, but it comes with a very real price. The more successful you become, the more you start to resemble a core component that is forbidden from ever shutting down. It's not that you're not allowed to rest, it's that no one dares to let you stop for even a second. Reba was the most successful product they ever built. She wasn't just the backbone of the agency's drama empire. She was also the main pillar supporting their entire commercial ad portfolio. From Dior to Louis Vuitton, world-class brands were constantly knocking on her door. In certain years, outsiders estimated that the commercial value of this one woman alone accounted for a staggering 1/3 of the entire company's revenue. But any machine pushed to its limits for too long is bound to overheat. Especially in an industry where traffic and fame are so expensive, the weight behind them becomes crushing. And usually, the real turning point doesn't happen on stage. It happens within the fine print of a contract. Many are left wondering, what actually happened in Dubai during those 3 days? Why would a top-tier star's team leave her stranded on the brink of life-threatening danger right on the eve of a globally broadcast fashion week? Let's rewind the timeline to February 28, 2026. That day, military observers worldwide held their breath. The United States and Israel launched a massive military operation, codenamed Epic Fury, targeting command centers and military facilities within Iran. Shortly after, Iran launched a blind retaliatory strike. Hundreds of missiles and drones tore through the Middle Eastern skies. The targets were no longer just military bases, they spilled over into nearby civilian facilities. And at the heart of this storm was the very place where Reba was scheduled to transit, Terminal 3 of Dubai International Airport. Based on independently verified information from multiple sources, in the early hours of March 1st, Terminal 3 of Dubai Airport was gripped by a truly terrifying event. At that moment, deafening emergency sirens suddenly blared throughout the airport. Every passenger was ordered to stay away from windows and seek shelter underground. Within minutes, eyewitnesses captured the moment missile debris came crashing down in a ball of fire. The attack directly hit several parts of the terminal. Thick smoke instantly blanketed the area, and 4 staff members were reported injured. This wasn't a drill, it was a real-life gamble with death. Yet, the most painful part, and the part that makes the least sense from a business perspective, was about to happen. In the middle of what global media called the collapse of the sanctuary myth, where was the core team that was supposed to guarantee Reba's safety? Where were the makeup artists, the stylists, and the PR team at that moment? The details we uncovered are shocking. Every single member of that core team was holding a direct flight ticket to Paris. While missile debris was raining down on Dubai Airport and Reba was struggling in the dark just to find a phone signal, her core team had already landed safely at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris. Sipping coffee by the Seine, they casually posted work updates on social media. Why was the company's primary cash cow scheduled on the most dangerous route, heavily dependent on a Middle Eastern transit hub? This, despite the fact that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs had repeatedly issued red-level travel warnings, and various airlines had already begun massive cancellations. Who actually signed off on this travel schedule? This is no longer just a case of professional negligence, it's a blatant abandonment of risk. When the old agency realized the 13-year contract was hitting its end, they seemingly lost interest even in pretending to provide basic protection for her. Many people only see her journey as a myth of popularity, but if you trace her life from 1992 to today, you see something much more solid and unshakable. A girl who journeyed from Xinjiang to Shanghai, transforming from a newcomer into a top-tier star, and evolving from someone who was molded into someone who wants to take control of her own life. It's not that she isn't fragile, she's just far too used to hiding that fragility deep inside. That's why, when she posted the simplest sentence on social media, "My team and I are safe," it was enough to make everyone breathe a sigh of relief. In fact, she is likely learning to find her footing again in a different way. To understand this Dubai crisis, we have to momentarily look away from the fire lines in the Middle East and start scrutinizing the death contract, filled with intrigue and power struggles. Many find it baffling. Isn't Reba the face of Jaywalk Studio? She is the money tree for this agency. Even if they had to part ways, shouldn't they have seen her off with dignity and respect? How could something as basic as travel security be overlooked? The truth is hidden behind a crucial timestamp. February 26th, 2026. That wasn't just a regular Thursday. It was the day the long 13-year contract between Reba and Jaywalk Studio officially expired and reached its final point. This means that when those missiles struck near her in Dubai, legally, she was no longer considered a long-term asset of the company. She had turned into nothing more than a remaining balance, a short-term item whose expiration date had almost arrived. In capitalist logic, this is known as the law of diminishing marginal utility. When the old agency realized that the money tree they had carefully nurtured for 13 years was about to be uprooted and moved to someone else's yard, their desire to protect her and their investment in her plummeted to zero overnight. Over these 13 years, what has Reba given to Jaywalk? From 2013, when she was still a newcomer in Anarhan, until she transformed into the main pillar, supporting over 30% of the entire company's revenue. She was like a money-making machine that never stopped running. While Jaywalk Studios' valuation plummeted from its peak of 5 billion yuan, and while other talented stars began to break away to build their own brands, she was the only one left, desperately propping up the company's name to keep it from collapsing. Yet, in the final months leading up to the end of her contract, what did we witness? We saw PR resources being quietly withdrawn and a lack of staff at major events that left her team looking overwhelmed. Even for this trip to Paris Fashion Week, when every risk warning was blaring, the agency still chose the cheapest transit route, heavily dependent on a Middle Eastern hub. This wasn't just an oversight. This looks more like a pre-planned attempt to wash their hands of her. Meanwhile, the public is still busy debating how unfortunate it was that she had to miss that prestigious fashion event. While fans are still busy mourning that broken shoe heel with deep sympathy, hardly anyone notices that this is actually a form of neglect, a slow withdrawal of investment. When the capital owners are no longer willing to gild her with luxury, and when management no longer cares to cover her flaws, the shadow of her back, alone, searching for a way out of Dubai airport, was actually the cold finale of this 13-year contract. Freedom was the ransom she finally received, paid for with 13 years of exhaustion, and ultimately by putting her own life on the line. The moment Reba finally escaped the chaos in Dubai, and the second her IP address appeared in Malaysia. That moment also served as a declaration of her total severance from the old system. This 72-hour disappearance turned into the most heart-pounding handover or resignation procedure she had ever experienced in her life. Many are left wondering, after the contract is over, where does she go next? The truth is usually hidden within the most trivial details, like changes in business registration data and corporate administration, that people rarely notice. You might want to keep an eye on a company called Shanghai Jingnian Film and Television. This isn't just some shell company set up overnight. Take a look at Shanghai Jingnian Film and Television. This is far from being a fly-by-night shell corporation. The promotion strategy for her current projects is a world away from the budget package style Jaywalk used when launching its new artists. The Reba we see now is actively trying to end her own era as a global icon who relies solely on her looks. She has started locking herself away on film sets, turning down hollow business invitations. Even in her decision-making, She is beginning to plant her roots in roles that are more grounded, roles that embrace the raw complexity of being human. At the same time, another name has begun to surface: Tianyi Entertainment. Rumors suggest that this company, a rising force spearheaded by Yang Mi and her mother, turns out to have very close ties with Reba's own studio. Is this a new alliance between giants? Or is it a sign that a group of women who were once trapped in the cruelty of capital bet agreements are now making a collective effort to find a more independent and empowered way to survive? We don't know for sure if she will stand side by side with Yang Mi at the peak of their glory again, but one thing is certain. The Dilraba, who in early March 2026 braved the edge of a conflict zone and took a long detour from Dubai just to make it back home, she is no longer anyone's asset. 13 years, that is the most precious time for a young girl, the years where she grows from an innocent soul into a mature woman. Reba gave her youth to Jaywalk, a devotion that produced great works, yet brought her to a final chapter that nearly cost her life. Freedom is never free. That exhaustion we see, which makes us feel so much pity for her. This sense of detachment that flickers when the camera lens zooms in on her face. In reality, it was all the final installment of the ransom she had to pay for the right to be herself again. 13 long years now, the shackles are gone. May the rest of her journey be as vast as the ocean and as high as the mountains. Dubai wasn't just a wrong route. It was the breaking point of a 13-year bond. Reba finally chose to be a free human being, even if she had to pay the ransom with her own life in a conflict zone. A new chapter has begun, and this time, she's the one in control. Thank you for following this investigation until the end. I'm Sean, and I'll see you in the next case. If you're still watching this, maybe you're looking for the same thing I am.